What's going on, my brothers and my sisters? This is Mark DeJesus, bringing you insights to help you in your healing and freedom journey. I am passionate about equipping believers live mentally, emotionally, and relationally healthy. And when it comes to that, there's the issue that we have to cross over. And this is the subject of learning to say no. Do you know how to say no? Do you even think that's an option that's available for your life, for your journey? You feel like you don't even know how to say no, or where to even begin with that? Well, I pray this broadcast will be an encouragement to your life and your journey, because in learning to slow down and live a relationally and emotionally and mentally healthier journey, we're going to have to learn to say no. In fact, healthy people actually say no a lot. And many of you are going to have to learn how to flex the no muscle to actually empower your yes muscle and to move in a more single-minded direction in your life and in your journey. And when we don't say no, we realize this, that when we lean towards not saying no in so many of our steps and our decisions, it leads us to a lot of areas we get sucked into. It pulls us into doing too much. It pulls us into areas we can get resentful. It increases stress. It increases anxiety. It doesn't give us the margin that we need to recover, to refresh, to stay grounded. It leads towards burnout, and it really just magnifies a lot of our mental health battles. So today, what I want to get into is just being your brother and encouraging you today to give you permission that it's time to start saying no in some areas in our life and in our journey. So today I want to talk about learning to say no for your mental health and to make room for what's important in your life. And that's what saying no does, is it guards and honors the room for what's important and what's needed for you and for those that are people in your life that are going to be blessed by you living out of this healthier posture. But first, let's get honest. I always like to get honest. Why do we struggle to say no? Why is this such a battle? And when I was thinking through this and meditating on this a bit, I was like, wow, we could add, this list could be the endless list. But let me summarize to some of them. Here's just some reasons. And you tell me which one is one that you battle with. The first one is we don't even know that saying no is an option. There's a number of areas in your life where you just say yes. You just say yes. You just do. And it doesn't occur to you, I could say no. I remember when I got into doing one-on-one work with people, for an example, I just met with everybody that, asked or signed up and never really thought, well, is this person am I a right fit for this person? Is this something I should just say yes to? Because you see Jesus not just falling to every whim and demand that people put on them. But when you get into ministry work or some kind of service and helping people, you can have a tendency to just say yes to everything and don't consider, can I say no to this? Now, it's not all bad. In the early stages, I was learning who I was, learning who I was going to help, learning what I was realizing I wasn't called to do. And sometimes you got to just go through the journey and learn. But I didn't even know that no was an option. Do you feel that way in your life, in your journey? A second reason we don't say no is we don't actually know what we want. We don't know where we're headed. We don't know what we're moving to. We don't have a clear vision of what our next step is. So I think this is a top reason that we don't say no to others or certain things, or we don't say no to things that we need to really kind of get out of our life, because we just don't know what we're even focused on. So therefore, we become easily distracted and pulled by other forces, other directions, other demands, other requests. We struggle to say no because we haven't had healthy models. We haven't had saying no modeled for us in a healthy way. What I mean by that is, do you know of somebody who knew how to say no in your life? and they modeled it for you. Because I often ask the question, how do you say no without being a jerk? How do you say no without being rude? How do you say no without it like disrupting your peace all day long because you're like, oh, I feel bad and all this stuff, or let it steal your peace? And I realized I lived a life by just saying yes to everything. I had to learn to say no. And I remember in my own counsel, my own coaching, my own ministry that I was receiving from people that I respected, I remember saying, help me. Is this okay? I'm saying no. I'm setting up boundaries. I'm saying no, that I can't commit to that. No, sorry. Is this all right? It felt wrong at first. Am I being unloving? Am I being unkind? And for people that have come out of neglect and brokenness and trauma and even abuse, and you can tend to become a pleaser, and you can just say yes, 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 yes to what other people demand, and you lose yourself. You lose the compass that you're going by, and you become pulled. And we live in a world where we're all just like being pulled by what everybody's saying. We don't know how to be firm in our convictions, and out of that, being able to simply say no. And we haven't had models that model for us how to do that lovingly. We also, another reason we don't know how to say no is every one of us longs for approval, validation, and acceptance of others. It's there. What makes it more inflamed is when we've not been loved, equipped, and nurtured in our life, especially growing up, where it didn't bring and build in that within us an unconditional love. So we become vulnerable. When you're not loved the way that you needed growing up, you will look outside yourself your whole life for what other people say. So if you find yourself just like you have a compass constantly feeling out what other people say and think about you, that's a sense that hasn't been built up with inside of you. And that's where the healing journey is needed, because otherwise you'll keep getting sucked in. And therefore you'll have difficulty saying no to those demands because you want their approval. You want their validation to the point it negates even your own sense of, should I say yes or should I say no to this? A big reason that we struggle to say no is our world relationship it's run by guilt. We think it's love, but really it's just the emotion of I feel bad. It makes us compulsive, and you will follow the I feel bad whenever it kicks up. And that feeling will distract you from following what's actually needed. You'll start to head in a direction, and you feel a pull of someone else's demand that you really need to say no to, but it'll distract you and pull you away from really what's important. If Jesus followed all the guilt trips that were pulled on him, he wouldn't have done the mission and the daily focus the Father had put on him. And so our world of guilt, and Christians, we can have a real big tendency to be led and driven by guilt. It's that I feel bad emotion. And we haven't allowed ourselves to learn to get into a healthier place. And when you first learn to say no, you're going to have to confront guilt. We have a trouble to say no because you intend to ignore your own needs. Your needs don't matter. And for many of you growing up, there was a neglect where your needs didn't matter. So you didn't know how to identify them, and they didn't matter. So saying no was never an option. Another reason is we think we're supposed to be superheroes. We're just supposed to take on everything that's brought to us, and just because it's brought our way means we need to say yes to it. And when we get honest, we don't want to feel the discomfort that arises when you say no. Sometimes we say no, and then we backpedal and say yes because in the moment we feel bad. No, I'm sorry, I can't make it there. Well, all right, I'll be there. I'll go. We overtalk our explanations. I can't be there because I got to think, just stand up. We get 5,000 reasons, and now we're over explaining everything, right? We don't like that feeling when we say no, and then there's that silence. Or then there's that guilt response. Because oftentimes when you say no, It brings out, is the other person that you're saying no to, are they someone who knows how to honor a no boundary? Because you'll see them bring on the guilt trip, bring on the guilt trip, bring on the guilt trip. It actually reveals, we don't want to feel that discomfort. Oh, maybe they won't like me, or maybe they'll be mad at me, right? But it also reveals where other people don't have an honor and respect for healthy boundaries. I appreciate it when I bring a request to someone and they bring back a boundaried answer. Like, wow, that's helpful, right? Sometimes we take no as rejection. They don't love me. Say, hey, can you meet with me today, right now? No. I have a problem. Can I call you right now? No. And that's actually an act of love because it shows boundaries. Our dysfunction calls for a lot of ways that we do relationship. I need to meet with you now, talk to you now. I need to, and what love does, it says, no, here's a structure we can work with. And I realize at times in my life, you know what? I appreciate that because that's grounding. That's actually nurturing. That actually leads me to healthier patterns. But sometimes people take boundaries, many times. They take boundaries as rejection. You don't love me. I think that when it comes to saying no, we don't do it until our life becomes painful. Something painful starts to happen. Our mental health erodes. Our emotions are getting worn down. We're burnt out. Burnout is one of the top areas that will call us to say, it's time to make a change. And I realized in my life, in my journey, I've got to learn this. I've got to learn to live in the flow. And it actually led me to saying no a lot because that no helped me to get clear on my yes. I'll get into that some more here. So things we need to practice. So here's some application for you in your life and your journey. If this this broadcast is speaking to you, here's some things you're going to need to learn in order to make saying no more a part of your life and your journey. Number one is you're going to need to learn about the factors in your upbringing that actually fuel your struggle to say no. This goes back to childhood. This didn't start today. You didn't become a people pleaser or a codependent or someone who hates people being upset with you, or you run by guilt. This goes back to your childhood. When did this start? What does this lead back to? You got to follow the cookie crumbs back to where this began. A lot of it goes back to our rejection wounds. It goes back to where we weren't equipped in love and nurture. That's why exposing the rejection mindset can be a helpful tool to help you to realize that root that began where you weren't loved, where you became more codependent, or the big one is you became a pleaser. And so people that struggle to say no are often pleasers. They want to make people happy. Their compass lives in a way that they're looking to someone else and what someone else wants as their gauge. And that goes back to childhood. That goes back to your upbringing. It goes back to how you respond to what happened and what didn't happen in your upbringing that's now impacting your present life. Saying no, this is the heart of what I want to share today. Saying no stems best out of a perspective of love. And what do I mean by that? A perspective of love out of loving yourself properly, out of seeing yourself through love. Many times when you say no, it can be a powerful act of love for how you see your time, caring for your time, caring for your energy, caring for what's important over your life. Most people struggle with guilt that they're not focusing on what's really important. They end their day exhausted and they don't feel like they're tending to what's important. They don't tend to what they're passionate about. I remember in my pastoring, I'd spend most of my days, 90% of my days, doing nothing in the zone of genius in my life that God's given me. Because everybody's got that. You've got this zone that you operate in. That's super powerful. Maybe it's writing or singing or creating, or it's just an area that you excel in. And what happens is you end up doing 90% of your day is not doing that. I give a practical example, like a guy who's just a great carpenter, right? And he's amazing. He's like, he starts a business, right? But doesn't know how to say no and then delegate some of those things away. And he spends his days fielding phone calls and dealing with business transactions and selling. And what is he actually not doing? The carpentry that he loves, right? And so I realized in my pastoring, I was spending my day just fielding stuff that people were throwing my way. And it was just all this chasing drama that I was like, oh, okay. And I had to learn, no, I need to learn how to say no, to hone in on the things that are the grace in my life, which is teaching, and then also equipping those who really want to be equipped. And that's important, because there's people that want your time. They want to pull on you. They want to ask questions, but they don't really want to hear the answers. They're not really doing the work in their life, in their journey. They're 911 people. And learning to say no helps you fine tune to the people that I am called to equip, because I'm not called to equip everybody. We kind of assume just say yes to everything and everywhere. But saying no stems from a place of learning to operate out of myself through love. Because when I say yes to everything, I'm actually participating with self-beating, self-abusing, self-hating kind of things, because I'm wearing away at my mind, I'm wearing away at my emotions, I'm wearing away at my body, just saying yes to all these forces. And so we struggle to say no because we've not been cultivated in love. And it goes back to your brokenness. And maybe you identify with, I can't say no. I live as a pleaser. And so growing up, your needs were ignored. You didn't know how to live in love. So you lived outside of yourself. And saying no is an act of love. It's an act of love to yourself. It's an act of honor to yourself. Love fuels respect. And we'll have to learn that out of love is how we'll make those strong decisions. And I realized it is unloving, anti-love for me to live without a strong no in my life. It's anti-love to do that. It's anti-loving to me, and it's not loving to you to say yes to you for everything. It's not. Because now I'm playing to your every demand, and you're not going to learn love either. Now, I might say no, and you might get upset. That's your deal, right? I have to deal with my deal of yes, I have to work on how I'm saying it too, right? We don't want to be jerks about it. But sometimes, no matter what you do, just saying no, people are going to perceive you as being a jerk anyways. But when you learn to love yourself, that's a byproduct of loving yourself the way God loves you, is learning to set the proper boundaries in your life and in your structure. And God loves me and love myself is a very helpful reference in that, because it documents how I learned to begin that new kind of journey. Another thing you're going to have to realize is saying no honors and respects that you have limits. It stopped the superhero mindset, and you need to admit yourself you have limits. You have only so much you can exhale, because what you exhale needs to match what you inhale, meaning what you take in to fill yourself needs to match what you pour out. And for many of us, what you pour out way exceeds what you refill back in. And that's a recipe for burnout. In my life, what I found, I actually had a coach work with me on this, and he gave me a homework assignment to create a not to-do list. I knew what a to-do list was. I'd done that my whole life, right? Had to-do list, vision, mission kind of stuff, all that performance-based kind of stuff. It's not all bad, but it's just kind of, creating a vision for your life. Here's action steps, goals, and stuff like that. And for this particular season, it was something that was across the year, I just created a not to-do list. These are things that I'm no longer doing when it comes to how I do relationships, how I deal with my work, how I deal with my personal, my life, my family, my marriage. Here's the things I'm just no longer going to feed anymore. I'm starving them. It's like a starve sheet. It's an interesting perspective. Or maybe for application for your journey, make a "this is what matters most to me" list. Because a lot of people say family's everything, family's important. But in action, it's not. Because they say yes to so many things, it keeps pulling them away from family. Then they feel guilty. And really what they need to do is say no. They say, no, I'm making some room for my spouse. Nope, I'm making room to spend time with my children. No, here's what I can do. Instead of just being at the mercy of the constant yes. I also, in my journey though, had to get clear on what it is that I want. Those who cannot say no become bound to the vision and agenda of other people. And you begin to only think about what others want. So in order to learn to say no, you have to stop just being a responder only. Most people wake up and they just react to the day instead of waking up with, here's where I'm putting my foot, one foot in front of the other. And this takes healing because you have to actually make space. And if you sit down and go, I don't know what I want, that's the neglect growing up, where there was no room for your needs, no room for you working through what was going on with you. So therefore it didn't matter. So you have to this takes emotional work. This takes emotional work. You're going to have to confront the guilt factor no matter what. And because of our brokenness, we confuse love for guilt. I feel bad. We do all these things to feel bad. So we live compulsively. We're trying to fix guilt in us. And we feel a little bit of relief, but then we keep chasing it. And you'll have to practice those awkward moments where you learn to say no and it's just awkward. And you're like, well, this person may not like me anymore, but what am I going to do? I'm learning to feed the greater value of what's important. And you'll have to face your fears and avoidance in this. It takes courage to say no. It takes facing your fear. It takes going through it. But I found there's so much fruit and freedom as I practice no, because it clarifies my yes, and my yes gets stronger and stronger and stronger and clearer. And many of us, we are very chaotic in how we're living in our vision, in our life. It's hurting our mental health. It's hurting our emotional health. It's hurting our families. It's hurting what's most important because we don't know how to say no. So we become like a city with the access, like the walls broken down and access is everywhere and confusion is abounding. I found that saying no establishes a mindset of single-mindedness. You're going to have to learn to practice being single-minded. Now, for many people that access my materials and resources, they struggle with double-mindedness. They struggle with triple-mindedness, quadruple-mindedness. It's multiple mindsets and perspectives, and it stalls them. It keeps them from taking a step and moving forward. And I keep encouraging my brothers and sisters, take a step. Stop overthinking, overanalyzing, trying to take in every opinion. Yeah, but we're listening to every voice and every wind. Take a step. And part of being single-minded is learning to say no. Nope, this is where I'm headed right now. Nope, this is where I'm headed right now. It enhances your focus. I did a whole series on focus. You can check that out and look that up. And I encourage you to look at that, because part of me guarding my mental health is, what am I focused on? What am I letting have my focus? And practicing no taught me how to train myself to be focused. And we can look at what James said about this. He said, if any of you lacks wisdom, right? And in learning to say no, we want to learn how to have wisdom, how to carry that so we can take our steps wisely, right? When he says, if you want wisdom, go to the farthest reaches, go to the top of a mountain, sit in silence for 3 weeks. He says, if you lack wisdom, just ask for it. It's there. It's there, but you're going to have a couple things that you're going to have to wrestle with in order to really hear and retain what wisdom is saying. Because he says here, just ask of God. He's going to give it liberally without reproach. I Meaning it's not something he's like, well, I don't know if I'm going to give it to you. He doesn't play hide and seek with you. But let him ask in faith with no doubting. So just take it and take a step. Because a lot of us know this is what we need to do to step forward. But we hesitate, doubt, inflame doubt. And then we get stuck and we procrastinate. Now we're double, triple, quadruple minded. And what's the manifestation? He who doubts is like a wave of the sea driven and tossed by the wind. And for let that man suppose that he will receive anything from God. So now we're like, God, where are you? I'm struggling. I don't even know. We're double-minded, unstable in all our ways. Saying no teaches you simple-mindedness. This is where I'm heading, so no to that. This is where I'm heading, so no to that. If we're double-minded, we're waffling, right? We're in procrastination. We're hesitating. So now other demands pile up. Then you're a part of this and doing that, and you're involved in this, and you're exhausted, and you're saying, and what you really need to learn is just to say no. And I want to encourage you to have a very strong yes, because that empowers your no. The stronger your yes gets and the stronger your no gets, and stay within that. Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no, no, for whatever is more than these is from the evil one. Isn't that interesting? It's kind of saying basically that say yes or say no, because the in-between is where the enemy messes with your thinking. Yeah, but what if I go checking, overanalyzing, overthinking. Step forward. Are you in or are you out? You stepping forward, yes or no? And many of you today, it's like, well, I want to get in this, yes or no? We have a panic attack because we're like, well, I'm 70-30. I'm 70% yes, 30% no. And we're trying to fix the 30% doubt, the 30%, right? And you will be sitting there for the rest of your life. Just be single-minded. Notice in this passage of scripture, it's not about doing it perfectly, because no one takes perfect steps. No one makes perfect decisions. It doesn't talk about having everything figured out. Ask for wisdom. I acknowledge you, God. I ask for wisdom. Grab it, take a step. Because wisdom is actually found in being single-minded. The person who's constantly checking, hesitating, is going to manifest confusion, double-mindedness. And many in my teaching work of obsessive compulsive, this is a big area for you. Hesitate, check. Meanwhile, you're doing what? Standing still. Take a step. Say yes. And with the yes, let there be a clear no. When I'm saying yes to something, I'm saying no to something else, right? So maybe for some of you, you need to start having a strong sense of like, it's either heaven yes or hell no for me. That's kind of where it is right now. Like heaven yes, because a lot of times we say things like, well, I'll try, well, we'll see, or yeah, maybe for a little bit, try it. I'm not telling you to tell people, hell no. You get what I'm saying? Where it's like, yes or no. Just practice the courage of being clear in that more versus the waffling that we constantly do. Because this is going to support your mental health. So that you don't get lost being involved in things just to do them, and you don't just become victim to other people's agendas, and you have room and space. Say no can whittle things down to create the space for your healing, for your recovery, for you to make room for intimacy with God, true connection with those that are important to you in your life and your journey. I often fight too, as you say no, sometimes your no, you've got to hold that because you got to fight for that margin, fight for that space. I pray this is speaking to your life and to your journey. I'm going to give you some things I encourage you to say no to, just as some starters. These are some things you can think about. Number one at the top of the list is saying no to being hard on yourself. That's a great place to start. And tune into love. I'm going to love and respect who I am and learn to say no out of the love that God has for me and honoring the vessel and the temple that I am. I'm going to say no to having to have everyone like me and have no one mad at me. That's something you're going to have to accept. Saying no to pleasing everyone. That's a dead end. The third one, constantly doing things without intention or vision. Why do you do the things that you do? Why do you step in? Why are you involved in the programs you're involved in? Churches can be notorious for this. They have so many activities and so many things. And it's like, why are you doing them? And they have like, nice little statements and phrases, but it's really not flowing out of that local church's heart and what's the beauty of what's the grace that's on that church and on that place. You just do it just to do it, just have a busy life. We equate a busy life with godliness, and it's just not true. Say no to fast-paced living. Say no to things you would not do or be a part of it, but you only do it because you feel bad. That one right there, number 5, it could really help some mental health of people right now. Number 6, say no to people that the only thing they do is pull from you. Is when you call it, they just suck the living life and energy right out of you. And they never actually give in the relationship. And 7, people that do not respect your boundaries. When they don't respect your no, it reveals things about them, about their journey, and let that be revealing. So where do you need to take the next step today? Where do you need to take the empowering step for your mental health? If you want to go to more resources and materials, go to markdejesus.com. It's a joy to be a brother from another mother in your life. I pray this gave you some things to think about as you learn to make space and room for your heart to heal and for you to spend your yes to say heaven yes to what is really important over your life and what matters. Have a great day. Look forward to seeing you again, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. But in the meantime, this is your brother from another mother, and I'm out.